we are back with another episode. We've hit number 10 for the K&L Sports Huddle. 2.5 months. This has been a lot of fun. How are we feeling today, Logan?
Feeling excellent. It has been a blast doing this the last couple months. Sports world never quiets down, so I look forward to this every week to talk about what's happened.
And we've got plenty to talk about this week because we just had the NBA draft lottery come through. Who's going to get Cooper Flag, basically, is what that is. Plenty of playoff games happened over this past week. We got a lot of cool storylines that came out of these series. Little tidbits from the NFL, college football, Major League Baseball, and then we got a major this week with the PGA Championship, our second of the year. So we got plenty to talk about. We also got a new pope. That was quite the story. We got an American pope. I didn't even think we were in the running for this. Like, what is this? We can get just a pope from Chicago, and it's clear he is a White Sox fan, not a Cubs fan. So tough right now for him, but when you're the pope, I think your spirits are high, and maybe that'll turn things around for the White Sox up on the south side. So we'll get started here. We had the breaking news. We knew this was going to come in right before we started recording here on Monday, May 12th. So who won the capture the flag?
Well, it looks like the Dallas Mavericks, despite their 1.3% chance of winning the draft lottery, turns out they won it. And yeah, I think everyone now should just take their time to apologize if they said any mean things to Mavericks GM Nico Harrison, because based off tonight's results, I think it's pretty clear that Adam Silver was behind the Luka trade, and there may have been a backdoor deal that, despite your 1.3% odds, we will give you Cooper Flag. So it was an interesting lottery, though, not despite that, because it was between the Hornets, Wizards, and Jazz for the top. Those three are the highest chances, and
Right.
those teams are picking 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, the other team, the Spurs, the Spurs probably would have made me more mad than the Mavericks, because Mavericks, I think, their fans deserve it, but it just kind of shows that there might be some rigging behind it. The Spurs would have just made me mad. Landing Wembanyama and Flag, I don't think the Spurs deserve Flag for how Wembanyama's 2 seasons have gone so far with not much winning success despite his dominance. But yeah, the Spurs ended up with the second pick, and the 76ers ended up with the third pick. Good for them, because if their pick would have fallen outside the top 6, it would have gone to the Thunder. And we know after their disastrous season, they need any hope they can get.
Yeah.
And they can, with the third overall pick, they could add a top-tier talent to a roster that has names on it that indicate a team that should be in title contention, but if they could stay healthy. But yeah, overall good for the Mavericks fans and the organization as a whole for getting that first overall pick. Cooper Flag is definitely one of the most surefire things at the number 1 overall pick, around the tier of Wembanyama and Zion. I feel like he's going to be really good.
Should be interesting, him pairing up with the roster that already sits in Dallas. Kyrie Irving, the trees that they have at the with Gafford and Lively. It could end up being a playoff team by next year, just by having him on the roster. He doesn't even have to really put up mind-blowing stats his rookie year or anything like that, but I think they could easily be slotted in at the 7 or 8 seed.
Yeah, and Kyrie's likely not to play next year, but I think if they're all healthy, which is really hard to say because there's like a 1% chance that happens, that team remaining healthy through the end of the year, that's a title contender just defensively alone. And I mean, when Anthony Davis is healthy, he's one of the best players in the league. There's really no doubt about that. It's just if he's healthy, that's the thing. And Kyrie is still doing Kyrie things despite his age. But they're not going to have Kyrie. But if you put Cooper Flag in there, yeah, I think it's still it's a playoff team if the injury bug doesn't hit them this year.
Yeah, it'll make it a lot more intriguing to see who ends up winning the Luka trade. considering Lakers' first round exit in the playoffs and the future of LeBron kind of up for grabs with his age and everything. So we'll see if Luka comes back in shape and if the addition of Cooper Flag to the Dallas Mavericks ends up being a good one for them. Let's get into these semifinal matchups. We had a lot of playoff games come through this past week. I believe each series at least got in 3 games, and they were some of them were blowouts. Some were ones you could just watch a movie instead, but some of them were pretty exciting. I want to start with the Knicks and Celtics though. So this has been one of the bigger storylines in this round, as we have the juggernaut Celtics roster against a tough Knicks team that have been trying to build towards beating a Celtics squad. This very moment that they're playing as we start recording. They're playing their game 4. But talk to me about the first 3 games in this series, because the Knicks pulled off 2 hell of a comebacks in games 1 and 2, coming back from 20 points down in both games in Boston. And it just looked like to me that Boston was living and dying, more specifically dying by the 3-point line. It's their philosophy. It's something that's worked for them for a while now. It's why they're one of the best teams in the league. Their philosophy is 3 is worth more than 2. And it's the philosophy that's kind of taken over the NBA game. And when the shooting starts sucking, something like this can happen, but they continue to shoot the threes even when they had the huge lead, which just amazed me that they wouldn't just find a bucket. Come playoff time with a smaller sample size, you just want to find the best bucket, not the most value in the bucket.
Yeah, especially game 1. Some of those threes were just dumb threes. Like, I wouldn't fault them for not taking threes because that's their philosophy. Sometimes you hit them, sometimes you don't. And like, even if you're up a lot, if that's your offense, just go with it. But that doesn't mean you take threes early in the shot clock. I mean, that's just gifting extra possessions to the Knicks. That's what bothered me the most. But to me, the biggest indicator of this series happened between games 2 and 3, when you went on the FanDuel after the Knicks were up 2-0, you could still get plus money for the Knicks for winning the series. And this was before Game 3 happened, where the Celtics blew them out. But that just shows you how crazy the series has been, because the Celtics have dominated about 80, 85, maybe even 90% of this entire series. It's just their 2 horrible fourth quarters blew them the lead. And credit to the Knicks. Maybe the toughest team in the league, but yeah, I mean, Boston just went cold. They cold from 3. They shot 15 for 60 in game 1. I mean, I don't care. I know that's their philosophy, and I said they should stick with it, but 60 is just way too much, especially if you're winning by 20 in the second half. Yeah, you should not be taking 63s. They shot the same percentage in game 2, but they only shot 40, so they went 10 for 40, so it's also pretty bad. 40 is a decent number if you're a 3-point shooting team. That's just a case of you're not hitting your shots, and that happens. But yeah, game 3, it shows you how dangerous Boston can be, because they hit 50% of their threes. They shot 40 that game too. They went 20 for 40, and they just absolutely obliterated the Knicks.
It was inevitable that Boston's poor shooting would come around. Like the Knicks were barely getting these victories when Boston was shooting 25% from 3. So if they would have made 2 more shots in each game, Boston would be up 3-0 in this series. So Knicks should be thankful that they have a 2-1 series lead going into game 4. But MSG hasn't really given them the home court advantage, which honestly throughout this whole playoffs, does home court advantage mean anything at this point? Because the road records for a lot of these playoff teams have been really good. So I just don't put much stock into home court advantages once we get to the NBA level, especially playoff time.
I talked about it last week, just how good the Knicks were on the road in the Pistons series. They went 3-0. Well, they continued that. I said last week that I thought I could see them stealing one in Boston. I didn't expect them to steal both in
How about
Boston,
two?
literally. And I'm not even not winning, stealing because they played pretty bad for 3 quarters. But yeah, they're five. So the Knicks are 5-0 on the road so far in the postseason. They're 1-3 at Madison Square Garden. That's incredible. And that one win, they had to go on an absolute huge run at the very end, game one against the Pistons to even pull that one out. So yeah, across the league, home court advantage just hasn't meant much. I've always thought baseball was home field advantage meant hardly anything in baseball. Less like more than like NFL, it's huge. I used to think basketball was huge, but I think now it's just. I think some players. Well, it's always been said like your home team feeds off the fans' energy. I think the away team can feed off the fans' misery.
Right.
I think that's how it works for some of these teams. Like game one, we'll talk about the series in a bit, but just a quick example: the game one of the Warriors Timberwolves. Warriors had no business winning that game after Curry went down, but just
No.
guys like Green and Butler, they could just feed off that that ugliness of the game and the fans not liking it and the Timberwolves missing shots. And you see that with the Knicks too, with those Villanova guys. They're tough, defensive minded, and whenever it's an ugly game, the fans are kind of out of it. They just thrive off that.
Yeah, and I think when you get to NBA playoff basketball, especially this year, the refs have been holding on to the whistles. They have not let this. They've been letting them play, and it's shown that the tougher teams have been able to come out on top. We've seen it with the Knicks coming out on top two times in a row in Boston, but I almost think maybe the tougher teams, the more physical teams, are built to last in this year's playoffs. Tatum with a couple of tough games at home in those first two outings. He came back in Game 3 and was able to lead his team to victory, along with a great game from Peyton Pritchard, who put up 23 in Game 3. So the 3-pointers came back around for Boston. They shot at a 50% clip in Game 3, and they outscored the Knicks by 45 from the 3-point line. So it all came back for Boston, and even when they went down 2-0, I pretty much gave them a fair shot to win this series and be able to come back. And Game 4 is going to be critical for the Knicks here. So moving on to another series that I think has been the best one thus far, and that's the Nuggets and Thunder. They've gone back and forth, traded blows. It's been a rough series for Nikola Jokic. It's been odd to see him miss so many shots when he's been a model of consistency throughout his NBA career into the playoffs. We obviously saw it a couple years ago when they won it all in 23. But it's been tough shooting for him. They've been able to eke out victories in these close matchups. They got an overtime victory in Game 3. But I think the Game 4 win for OKC might have just put the nail in the coffin for Denver. And I think we're going to see OKC finish this most likely in 6. That's what I'm thinking.
This series is honestly pretty similar to the Knicks Celtics, where you just watch the game and you kind of feel like, yeah, the Thunder are the better team. But both of the Thunder's losses, they kind of just made mental errors and kind of fell apart at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets took advantage of it.
Looked like a young team in those two spots.
Yeah. And we called it last week. We were talking about the Nuggets Thunder, like how the Nuggets could exploit something the Thunder have. In Game 1, which was Jokic's by far his best game in the fourth quarter, yeah, he just took it to Holmgren and the Thunder bigs. Like he was probably elated to not have to go against Zubac from the Clippers again. Holmgren was like a toothpick to Jokic. Like I think he had 42 points in that game, and including and then obviously the game went to overtime, so he played a little bit more. But still, it was a great win for the Nuggets. But good Thunder won 68 games. We anticipated they'd make adjustments, and they did. And so yeah, it's been you're absolutely correct. Where it's been a strange series for Jokic. I mean, Game 4 yesterday, Sunday. Credit to the Thunder for their defense. I mean, holding the Nuggets to just 87 points. The end of the first quarter, the score was 17-8. So I mean, the Nuggets were also playing. Nuggets played solid defense too, but I mean, I know it's fun to watch defensive games, but that's a little too defensive for me.
Taking it back to
17.
the '90s a little bit.
That's yeah. That's a little too much, especially when you have good offensive players like the Jokic and SGA. You kind of expect there to be some smooth offense, but it just didn't happen. But yeah, Game 5 tomorrow should be interesting. Um, it's going to come down to what Nuggets team shows up. The one and showed up in Game 1 and took it to the Thunder at the end, or the one in Game 2 who just kind of fell back and let the Thunder take over and just absolutely roll them. So I agree with you that I think the Thunder may have put the nail in the coffin, but I do believe that Jokic is the best player in the world. So I'm never going to count out the Nuggets until they're actually out of it.
Yeah, and you're always going to have the energy brought by Russell Westbrook, but I think Aaron Gordon's probably had the best series so far for Denver. It seems like he's always coming up in clutch situations down the stretch, and it's been wild to see. It's almost every other game you see his name come up on an alert that he's done something at the end.
Is he the clutchest player in NBA history? Because when you've done it 3 times,
him or Robert Horry.
Yeah, three times in a week, in about a week span. I'd say you've risen up on the list. So, yeah, and I wouldn't have expected it to come from him. Like Jamal Murray's not really been like it's usually Jamal Murray who I remember the year they won the title, him putting the nail in the coffin for the Lakers season. No, Murray's always been known as he's like the complete opposite of most NBA players, where he won't make the Hall of Fame because he underperforms in the regular season.
But he's one of the best playoff performers.
Yeah, it's something you've never seen. But this series he hasn't really been his usual playoff self. I feel like so.
Yeah, outside of Game 3 where he put up 27, from another off shooting night from Jokic, it has been the whole team's been offensively,
especially Game 4. Yeah, but yeah, like I said, Game 5 should be really interesting.
We love this Pacers team, and they've been putting on quite the performance. This series is pretty much over with. They take Game 4, go up 3-1 in this series. It is unfortunate to see where the Cavs are right now with all the injuries, but the Pacers have really taken it to them this series.
So this series has been interesting, though. So I feel like Games 2 and 3 went exactly the same way. The difference was Game 2, the Cavs were missing enough guys that when they had that 20-point lead, they just couldn't finish it off. That just shows you where injuries can come back to bite you. Like I told you, I texted you before Game 2 and said that when they announced all those guys are out, I said this is actually bad news for the Pacers because if you watch in the regular season, it's just something weird about them. They always play down to competition, but they always rise against the good teams, and you could see that clearly. They came out to a slow start and in the first half and early in the second half. But the difference between regular season and playoffs is that you're less likely to fold whenever you're down. And whenever you're missing guys, it's much easier to come back against. And Naismith and Turner just absolutely fought till the end. And then ultimately Halliburton took over and hit that game winner. But Game 3 went exactly the same way, where the Pacers got off to a horrible start and in the first half, and then got off to a bad start early in the second half. But then they tried to come back. They cut their 20-point lead to 10. But the difference is the Cavs had all of their guys back. So coming back from 20 points is much less likely to happen. And ultimately the Cavs won that game by 22. But Game 4 shows you just how good the Pacers can be. People claim that they'll never shoot like that again. I beg to differ. I think they can. Obviously, they're not going to do it every game, but their offense is just so talented where they will just have days where they shoot like that. Going 12 for 18 from 3 in the first half. You're not beating that, obviously, when you're down 80-39. I've said before, first halves in NBA games are usually irrelevant because the second half is whole new game. But when you're down 41, I think that seals it. But I don't really know what the Cavs were doing in Game 4 offensively, though. Jarrett Allen was just an absolute no-show. He finished that game with 2 points and 2 rebounds and only took 1 shot. I mean, I won't fault him too much for the 2 rebounds because when the other team's hitting all the shots, there's not many rebounds to get. But Mobley can play the paint and he can shoot. Jarrett Allen, though, is your post presence. And if he only takes 1 shot attempt in the first half, I mean, that's just poor offensive game plan for me. But it'll be interesting to see if Donovan Mitchell plays. He suffered a non-contact injury before the second half. I don't know if it helps or hurts the Pacers because, like I said, they usually play down the competition whenever the best players are out. But if Mitchell does play, I hope he's not rushing it and further injures whatever. Do you remember what his injury is? I know it's lower leg, but I don't remember.
Yeah, all I know is a leg injury, but he's going to be a game time decision for game 5. So if he's out, then I wouldn't even bother watching Game 5. I think you can pretty much slot in the Pacers for Eastern Conference Finals, back-to-back years, probably facing Boston again, and we'll see with a healthy Tyrese Halliburton if this series could be different for them.
Yeah, and I think it will because we said before how the closest sweep you'll ever see. Last year, that Celtics Pacers series, and the Pacers were a younger team, a less experienced team, and they were missing Halliburton for games 3 and 4. Yet for 3 of those games, the Pacers had every chance to win those games to the very end. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they would beat Boston, but I would be absolutely shocked if that ended up in a sweep again. I could easily see that going 6 or 7 games.
Yeah. Did you see the Mathurin being ejected for punching DeAndre Hunter?
I really don't know. I mean, it wasn't that consequential. It may have helped the Pacers. It may have fueled them, but it was some of the worst officiating I've ever seen. I don't know how you eject Mathurin, but not eject Hunter. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to blame the ref for ejecting Mathurin. He looks like he did kind of punch him, but I mean, Hunter's retaliation was just as brutal. I felt like, full on extension of arms and a push. Like, I don't know how that didn't warrant an ejection too, but yeah, it's been a chippy series. That may have, I think it started in Game 1 when Mathurin blocked Hunter's dunk attempt that they didn't rule foul when it arguably could have been a foul. I think it started there, and it got a little chippy in Game 3 as well. But I think Hunter just had enough in Game 4. But it kind of says what's the mindset of the Cavs right now. If it's not really good, if that's how they're responding to little punches like that. If they're fully retaliating, that's not a great indication of how this series could go for the rest of the way for Cleveland.
Yeah, and I think Tyrese Halliburton is he's fighting back against all the players this season that voted him as the most overrated player in the league. So he's definitely come up big for the Pacers this postseason, and we'll be excited to see what they do. Hopefully, nothing crazy happens in this series and they do make it onto the Eastern Conference Finals, but all signs point to that. Finally, the Warriors and Timberwolves series. This one I was so excited to see Curry against Edwards. Pretty much just been Edwards. Curry went down in Game 1 in the second quarter, but they were able to come away with a win on the road because Buddy Hield with another great game, finishing as the top scorer with 24, went 5 of 8 from the three-point line. But it was also helped by the Timberwolves only shooting 17% from 3. So no Wolves player finished the game with a plus in their efficiency stat, so in their plus minus stat. So it was a rough game for Minnesota, a rough game for Edwards. But they've brought it back these next 2 games, and if the Warriors have a shot, they've got to be able to get a win here in Game 4 tonight, which will happen right after we're done recording this. They've got to be able to push this series out long enough so that Curry can come back and give them a chance.
Absolutely. It is for sure must win. I know you never want to be down 3-1, but you do have a chance if you're down 3-1. but I don't think the Warriors would have a chance if they went down 3-1. Because from what I've heard, Curry's best chance of coming back would be Game 6.
6.
So if you win tonight, that guarantees a Game 6. So, I mean, it absolutely must win because Game 5 is going to be at Minnesota and be hard to close out at the Target Center. But for me, this series just is boring now. Now that Curry's gone, it's hard to get invested in this series because if the Timberwolves play bad, I feel like I can't take them seriously because they should be dominating
Running away
the
with
Warriors.
this.
They should be running away with this. I think Jimmy Butler is old enough now where playoff Jimmy isn't enough. That's not to say he's been playing great. Like even in their losses, like Game 3, he put up 33 points.
Yeah.
But it's not how he was in Miami, where his fit with Curry was perfect because it puts him with another star, like a superstar,
and that's why he came here.
Yeah, exactly. But now with Curry out, he has to be the main guy again, and it's just and the rest of the Warriors supporting cast is arguably worse than what his supporting cast with the Heat was because at least they had Adebayo, an all-star. The Warriors don't really. I mean, Draymond Green's not really an all-star caliber player anymore. But yeah, it's I don't really have fandom for either team, but just for entertainment purposes, I really hope the Warriors win tonight, just so we can see Curry come back and make this series more interesting. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me to stay up to watch those games just because
No.
But yeah, like you said, but credit to Golden State for pulling out Game 1 though, because they got off to a fast start, so that helped. They were able to hold the lead, but anytime Minnesota found a glimmer of offense, though, our guy Buddy Hield, that we alluded to earlier, he hit a 3 and put it away. So they're going to need him tonight. They're obviously playoff Jimmy will be ready to go, but they're going to need something from Hield, something Green to keep us cool, and
not get fouled out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need Green in the lineup to lock down on the defensive side. Game 3 was a fun watch. It was a close game. Anthony Edwards, kind of had his breakout game for this playoff. Ended with 36 points. He had 28 of those in the second half. Put Kevon Looney in a body bag with his poster dunk. But not just him. I think what's going to drive the success for Minnesota heading moving forward is Julius Randle. He's been a steady force throughout this playoff. He had 24 points in Game 3, and it was all tough buckets down low. Really bodying up Draymond Green when he could. So I think he might be one of the better pickups from that trade with New York. So I think it's been a great series for him. I think it's been a great series for just his playoff performance throughout.
Yeah, just in this topic on the Warriors Timberwolves, it would be a great story. It's very unlikely to happen, but it'd be a great story if the Timberwolves and Knicks met in the finals, because you could declare that trade the definition of a win-win. If Towns was able to help the Knicks make the title, and Randall finally elevates his postseason play to help the Timberwolves reach the NBA Finals out of the West.
Definitely. So we've got a couple games tonight. One of them going on right now. We got Celtics, Knicks. I'll be keeping track of those. I believe the series will be over with by our next recording next week. I would think we'd be through the game sevens.
I checked it this morning. I think Knicks Celtics Game 7 would be Monday night, I believe.
Of course.
But I don't know. I don't know how that's. I don't know how. I believe the Celtics will win. I don't know if they're gonna win 4 in a row though.
Push it. It might get pushed out to 7, but
yeah.
Man, I love NBA playoffs, but man, it's like 2.5 months of this. So we'll be checking.
That series in particular, they're stretching out, I think, on purpose, just because. Because Nuggets Thunder are playing every other day.
Yeah, and have you seen the ticket prices for the Knicks Celtics in Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, I mean, credit to the Knicks for having that like all those fans outside, like that's a cool environment out there. But yeah, those ticket prices are just ridiculous. The casual fan needs to have a chance to be able to go.
Exactly, exactly. Well,
But
as
I
a
do. It is funny they paid that money last game 3 and got saw an ass kick.
yeah, they got it handed to them.
Yeah.
We'll see if that happens again tonight. Well, while that's going on, we had some news from around the sports world, from NFL, college football, Major League Baseball. Let's start with the NFL. A couple big tidbits that came out of the NFL news cycle was the retirement of Derek Carr. So he ends up retiring after, I believe, an 11-year career. And it kind of leaves the New Orleans Saints with a QB competition under new head coach Kellen Moore. I know they drafted Tyler Shough, I believe, with I think it was like their second round pick, I believe. With Derek Carr though, he never found a good situation. He was very talented. I would say he had a good career in the NFL, not a great one, but he never found a good situation with a competent offensive head coach. He started with the Raiders for many seasons, and then went to a defensive head coach in Dennis Allen with the New Orleans Saints. He was a second rounder out of Fresno State, but a 4-time Pro Bowler. And he just, with the NFL, it's all about where the quarterback lands, a lot of times more so than the talent that he has. Because if it's not paired with good offensive strategy and game plan, it you never see the full potential of a guy like this. But he was able to monetize his career pretty well. So as he made over $200 million, he kind of had the Kirk Cousins strategy for monetizing his career like that.
I mean, that's the Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr is like the most. Those are two quarterbacks who are almost exactly the same. Because I mean, yeah, you always saw the talent with Derek Carr, but you were never terrified to go up against him, and you never expected like the success to last. This included last year because remember the Saints got off to a really hot start. Their offense was on fire, but unless you just started watching the NFL, hardly anyone took that seriously. Or like, yeah, the Saints are gonna come back down because that's just Derek Carr. He's in the Kirk Cousins realm of you can never play too bad for too long, but you can never play too good for too long, and you just always find average. The law of averages just worked out for them all the time. But yeah, his best year was 2016. He was finished third in the MVP voting. That was the Raiders' best year in a long time. I believe they went 12-4, I believe. But if you recall, he got hurt. I think that was against the Colts late in the year, and that ruined their. I mean, they still made the playoffs, but they lost to the Texans, I believe, in the first round. But I mean, they were kind of a scrappy team who could have. I don't think they were Super Bowl good, but they could have made a run to the conference championship. I believe they were that good that year. But yeah, and then ever since then, he's put up great numbers, but he only made the postseason one time. He lost to the Bengals in the wild card round, I believe, in 2021. But but his departure leaves the Saints with one of the worst quarterback rooms probably in NFL history, and it's especially bad when I believe there's a serious argument to be made that the head coach is the best quarterback on the roster, considering he's still in his 30s and he's
He might
playing
have
the
to put on the
NFL.
pads, won't he?
I mean, yeah, because none of these other guys. I mean, you got the rookie, but he's 26 years old. When you're a 26-year-old rookie, that means that you were never an elite prospect because why didn't you go earlier in your career to the NFL? And then you have Spencer Rattler, who really underwhelms in his playoff games. And then I can't even remember what the other guy's name is. But yeah, it's pretty. They're hopefully Tyler Shaw steps up for them because it's a pretty bleak quarterback situation down in New Orleans. But they could just be going for Arch Manning next year.
Yeah, it might have to be like that because hopefully Saints won't give Kellen Moore too short of a leash
Yeah.
because it's going to be a rough season again for New Orleans.
Well, the Saints are an organization that usually. I mean, think of how long they should have rebuilt right after Drew Brees retired. But no, the Saints are an organization that keeps their guys around for way too long. So I would be unless like some scandal or something happened, I'd be absolutely shocked if they suck next year, but they got rid of Moore because I'd definitely give him a few years to
Yeah.
succeed.
So we had a trade happen between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the Steelers sent their moody wide receiver, their diva receiver, George Pickens, to Dallas. And this just is another example to me that Jerry Jones going after a player who needs him more than the team needs Pickens. So this has been a theme with Jerry Jones for as long as I can remember. They never go after the top talent that has his head on straight. They picked up Tony Romo. I believe he was undrafted. And it's always been a theme with Jerry to just pick guys who need him. Because Jerry wants to be the one that is responsible for the team that is put together. And you get George Pickens, you get CeeDee Lamb and that wide receiver core, but what's that really going to do for a Cowboys team that is going to have a quarterback coming off a serious injury in Dak Prescott and an O-line that just lost a future Hall of Famer in Zach Martin to retirement?
In a tough division as well, with the Eagles and Commanders both making the conference championship last year. Dallas badly needed a wide receiver too. There's no doubt about that. I was shocked they didn't draft one in the earlier rounds. But there's a long history of receivers that Mike Tomlin willingly lets go that ultimately fail where they end up. So I am going to say, until I see him succeed, I'm going to claim that this is a failure. This is a failure for the Cowboys making this trade because history shows with Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson. Mike Tomlin, the Steelers usually sign these guys, and they usually are little
Squeeze everything out of them that they can.
Everything out of them so they become head cases, and then they leave, and then they don't find any success anywhere else. Antonio Brown, he found a little success with Tampa, but that's just because he was so dominant.
He was with Brady.
He was with Brady. So, but nothing compared to Steelers' success.
Yeah, and if Mike Tomlin can't keep the reins in on a George Pickens, what's Brian Schottenheimer going to do with this guy? He's going to walk all over him.
Yeah, it's the Cowboys. You got to have ratings. You got to keep the ratings high, and I think Pickens is a character who can help do that. But we will, going to the next topic, though, we will be seeing him in Week 1 Thursday night because just found out today that the schedule release is Wednesday. We'll go over that.
We're getting tidbits. We're getting tidbits.
So today we got what the 2025-26 season opener is going to be. It'll be the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll ask your take in a second, but my take is I could see this going two ways. One, the Eagles just blowing them out and showing that, this was a mistake. The Cowboys really aren't a good team. Why are they on prime time? The other thing is I could see the Cowboys winning this. The emotions are just too high for Philadelphia, and the Cowboys sneak in there and steal victory, and then all Cowboys fans claim that they're back and we're going to the Super Bowl, and then they ultimately finish 8-8. So I think one of those two things will happen, but I'd like to hear your take on that. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I think the Cowboys' only shot in this game is if the tush push gets banned. I can't take Dallas. I can't take them seriously anymore. It's just been a circus for the past few years. I think Jerry's gotten to that age where he's turned into an Al Davis. It's gotten weird. It's gotten to the point where they should still have a good team under McCarthy, but McCarthy didn't want any part of it anymore, and he's been a really good coach for them. But I don't know what they're going to do under Schottenheimer. I don't think it's going to be a successful season. I don't even first game of the year against Philadelphia, rivalry game. Weird things happen in those games, but I think the Eagles are just too good.
Yeah, this is a game that rarely ever happens at the beginning of the year. I feel like Eagles Cowboys always takes place later in the year, so that could be interesting. Like I'm not complaining that this is the opening game until it's a blowout because I think there's storylines here that are interesting. But yeah, early division game. I'm looking forward to it, even though it's several months away. Still.
Yeah, yeah. Can't wait for the NFL season to come around. It's one of the best regular seasons you're going to get. I don't know that this one will top last year's Chiefs Ravens game, but it might surprise us. Looking at college football, we've had this developing drama circling around college football ever since Bill Belichick decided to take the position at North Carolina, and it's just gotten weird. He's dating this, what is she, a 24-year-old? It's like a third of his age. And I don't fault the guy for wanting to do that. I mean, you're one of the greatest head coaches in all of football. Date whoever you want, right? Not my business. But this has gotten really weird. He had an interview with CBS where his girlfriend Jordan Hudson was sitting off in the background, kind of just observing the interview, and she interjected a few times, specifically whenever the interviewer asked Belichick about their relationship and how they met. And she interjected and she says, "We're not talking about this." And it kind of just made it a really awkward interview from then on out. She interjected multiple times throughout the interview. It was reported that before the interview, there were no inclinations that there'd be any topics that were no-goes, basically. Nothing that would be no limitations to the topics they would discuss. And it, I've heard a lot of news that like Jordan manages all the activities related to Belichick's personal brand. So she's like his PR guy, but she's also dating him. It's getting really weird. It's reaching an all-time weird peak. And it could honestly hurt Belichick when it comes to recruiting, because I don't know that the athletes coming in would want to deal with this kind of drama around their head coach.
Yeah, I don't even know if I liked the fit in college football for Belichick at this point in his career, even before all this uh, girlfriend drama started taking place. It's just in the NIL era with a lot of entitlement amongst young guys. I mean, if Belichick implements the Patriot way and at University of North Carolina, I don't think that would go over well.
Those players are
So
going to be headed for greener pastures and better
yes,
NIL money, right?
yeah. No, I mean that's not to say North Carolina has all kinds of NIL that they can still get decent players, but when they're offered the same amount from a school that doesn't have a weird
Situation, yeah.
situation with some 24-year-old girl who's just a couple of years older than you, kind of running everything behind the scenes with your coach's daily life and his brand. And I just, yeah, that interview was one of the strangest things I've ever watched. It just even felt weird, like even like Belichick's outfit. Like I know he wears those, and like I don't like I know that's his image, but just take that mixed with the 24-year-old Jordan Hudson behind the scenes. Like, I mean, there's way more to this story than we know about, and like there's rumors. Well, there was a rumor, and I think it was just some fake account they started about how she was banned from North Carolina's facilities, but
Right.
obviously UNC came out immediately and said that was false.
Yeah.
But it's believable because of just how weird everything's been. But I mean, the ACC's not been a good football conference past couple of years. North Carolina has all the resources and a winning coach to compete in that league and potentially earn a bid in the college football playoff because of how weak the ACC is. But when you have
I mean,
distractions like
if
this.
nothing else, the cameras are going to finally be pointed towards the ACC. If nothing other than the hiring of Belichick at UNC. So we'll see what happens this year. It's going to be weird, but maybe they'll have a good year. Lastly, I want to get to this topic in Major League Baseball that's near and dear to me because I played the sport. It's one of my favorite sports to play growing up, and the recent news about Rafael Devers. At the beginning of the year, he was basically asked to put down the glove, right? He was going to be a DH. He didn't like that. He wanted to keep playing in the field, and I understood that because we talked about it before when the season was about to start. That taking a guy out of the field and making him full-time DH could hurt his hitting, and it did to start the year. Just having to sit the bench the whole game and wait for your number to be called 4 times a game. It kind of gets you out of a rhythm and a momentum of the daily grind of baseball. And Alex Bregman took over third. Now, with the injury to Tristan Casas that we talked about last week, he had that awful fall that led to him being out for the rest of the season. That was their first baseman. Devers is now being asked to take on first base duties after being sidelined from the field to start the year. And for me, I'm taking Devers' side on this. This is one of the worst mismanagement of a star player that I've seen in Major League Baseball since I've been watching. I can speak on my own experience of playing baseball and how every individual position is vastly different from the other. For someone who like Devers, who's played third base for the majority of his career, I can't even remember the last time he would have played first base. I mean, if he did, it would have maybe been in college or high school, and he's been in the league for a long time. And you can't ask someone to just take on the other side of the diamond when that's not something they've been trained to do. And they're kind of treating him like an everyday, scrappy utility guy that gets paid like a guy at the bottom of the roster. So I don't like what the Red Sox have done. I don't like how they've handled it. I also don't like how Devers has handled it, speaking out in the media. Neither side is handling this the way they should professionally, but I do take Devers' side on this because I know I've played multiple positions. I played catcher. I played a little first. I got like one game at third, and I couldn't handle the hot corner, that's for sure. Played a little outfield, second base, shortstop, and every position is so different. The responsibilities, the way the ball comes off the bat at each position. You have more time at short. You don't have as much at third. Being aware of your footwork at first base and how to cover, just all the different things, knowing when to cut off, where to cut off. They're treating him like a scrub, basically.
Yeah, and it's served them well. They get what they deserve because they're down 12-0 in the bottom
Oh
of the fifth right
no,
now to the Tigers. So
I just it I take Devers' side because he was told one thing at the beginning of the year, and now he's being told another. And you could look at this like, okay, he's getting paid $300 million. It do whatever helps the team out, right? But just you can't compare your daily life to a millionaire baseball player. Bring it down to your level, bring it down to our level, and just pretend like the job you're doing now, you're being asked to do something totally different. Like you're, marketing guy now being told to fix computers, right? Like it's two very different jobs at the same company, but yeah, that's my opinion. That's my take on the Devers situation. I know he's having conversations with front office about what to do next, and I think the Red Sox should just go out and pick up a first baseman on free agency, bring someone up. I know these. I mean, they've got so many players in the pipeline for all these teams, so just bring someone up that can contribute. Keep Devers at the DH like you wanted him, and get on with your season and try to make the playoffs. But putting him in at first is just putting him in a situation to struggle more than he has to start the year. So yeah, that's a little news around the sports world. We got little tidbits, but we got a major this week, don't we?
We do. It's started already today, Monday, May 12th, with the practice rounds. Fans got refunds. Anyone who bought practice round tickets because of the horrible
It got
rain.
rain.
But it's looked like, I mean, there's still huge chances of storms for Tuesday and Wednesday as well. So, yeah, hopefully people who go out to Quail Hollow still enjoy it. But for the practice round, still enjoy it. But in the rain, that's going to be just.
Yeah, the PGA Championship, we got that this weekend. It's the second of our four majors. We had the Masters back in April. I feel like this one gets a little overlooked though. Um, Obviously, the history of Augusta, the beauty of it, the pageantry of the Masters, the U.S. Open always it's kind of just known that they always get the most difficult courses. Obviously, they're going to Oakmont this year. It's probably the toughest course in America. And then the Open is the oldest, and it's a very distinct championship because it's always held at these Northern European venues, these links courses where it's these flat areas off. Usually there's a cliff somewhere next to the North Sea. But yeah, it's very distinct. But this is the only one that is exclusive to professional players. It was formerly played before 2019 in mid-August, so it used to be the final major of the year. Moved it back to May to make it the second. I think ending on the Open's probably better for the PGA Tour season. And this year we have an $18.5 million purse, so someone's going to get a nice chunk of change when they win this tournament. But looking at the course, so they're at Quail Hollow this weekend. It's in Charlotte, North Carolina. This one has hosted a lot of PGA Tour events. It usually hosts the Wells Fargo, now called the Truist. We just had that one last weekend. It will continue to host that championship moving forward, but every so often we get this one for the PGA. So they're just playing at it a week later than they're used to. So it did hold the 2017 PGA Championship as well as the 2022 President's Cup. It's a fun course. It's a par 71, 7,600 yards, but it has a signature stretch at the end, hole 16, 17, and 18, nicknamed the Green Mile. It ranks among the toughest on the tour. A tough 18, a long par 4, signature par 3 on 17. Yeah, just a fun course. I think we'll see some really good golf played here, and those last 3 holes should be interesting to watch as we head down the finishing stretch of it. But what is the storyline, the player storyline that you're looking forward to the most? What jumps out at you for this weekend's golf?
Before I answer that, just my little input on the PGA Championship as a whole. So, I mean, if you ask a common golf fan, what's your least favorite of the 4 majors, I would say a majority of them would say the PGA Championship. And I would probably agree with that. I think the Masters is obviously historic, and the U.S. Open is always the toughest. And one of the gripes that the PGA Championship usually gets, and this especially happened last year, is that the courses are sometimes too easy and just leads to too high of scores. I am in the complete minority. I know this is a minority in the golf fans, but I think that there should be. So the majors are supposed to tell you who the best golfers are in the world. Well, if all the courses are super hard, they're all kind of the similar playing field. I think there should be every now and then an easy course to see like who can make the most birdies. Like
Right.
that's a way to determine who the best. That's another way to determine who the best golfer is. So you can take advantage of uh, the easiness of the course with get your birdies and eagle your par fives. Like you can get the most of those.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, throw like, I mean, and just kind of ignore like, oh, he set the lowest score for any major ever. Just ignore that and just be
Yeah.
like, yeah, because that wouldn't mean as much. But I mean, it just should be another way to see who's the best golfer in the world. But I do think Quail Hollow might end up being a little tougher than Valhalla was last year. But yeah, as for interesting storylines, obvious one: can Rory continue his success now that he's got the big monkey off his back for winning all four majors? I He and Scotty Scheffler are right up there again for the betting odds. Scheffler wins at get him for plus 400 to win outright. McIlroy at plus 450. Last I checked this morning, that those may have changed. But I mean, McIlroy has had an amazing stretch of golf. But the other indicator for him winning here is that he's had major success at this particular course. He's won here 4 times.
Yep.
Yeah, he's won here 4 times, and he's run it finished. He also had a runner up here, and he has the course record. So, so I mean, all three of those facts
Twice over, because he'd broken his
yeah.
record of 62 that he had in the final round in 2010, and then broke that in 2015 in his third round for a 61. So he loves this course.
Yes, and everyone's saying that now that he has the pressure off him, he's just going to go out there and dominate. But there's the other side of the coin where what if now that he doesn't have any pressure, he falters a little bit, and he kind of takes it easy, and the field catches up to him. So that's an interesting storyline. Another one I wrote down is the Scotty's returned a little to form. We talked about it last week where he absolutely dominated what was that?
The CJ Cup, yeah.
Byron Nelson Cup, yeah. Obviously, the biggest bugaboo with him, and he's won 2 majors, but both of those were the Masters. He has had success in the PGA Championship. He's had 4 top 10s at 6 starts, so it's not like he's played bad. Last year, he would have had a chance of winning had he not been arrested, and that kind of threw off his. I mean, he actually played decent that day, but the next day he kind of had a bad day. But yeah, 4 top 10s, and including last year, where still finishing top 10 despite that shows you how good of a golfer Scotty Scheffler is. So yeah, he's obviously rightfully right up there with Rory in the betting odds. And then I mean, there's another Grand Slam watch with Jordan.
We got
Spieth,
another one
with Jordan Spieth, and ironically, his first chance at completing the Grand Slam was at this course. So I mean, it would be incredible story if he won it, because not just because of winning the Grand Slam, but because of the history of how he could have done this several years ago, but he had to earn it later in his career. But what he's been playing right now, there's not much of an indication that he can pull this off compared to how some of these other guys have been playing. But I'll give it to you if there's any. There's a lot more other interesting stories that talk
yeah, we're gonna have a great field when it comes to these majors. We're gonna get the live guys back into the fold. So obviously Bryson DeChambeau, who has had success in this championship before, but he's in top form after a live tour win. You know, he won the Live Golf Korea, also won the team event that weekend, after he holed out a 48-foot birdie putt en route to a 66 that Sunday. So we know Bryson's at the top of his game, and he's going to be in the running. He was at the Masters. I think he's going to be again. And the one guy that I'm really looking forward to watching this weekend is Justin Thomas. You know, after winning at Harbour Town, he's at a place now that he's won before. He won the PGA Championship in 2017 right here at Quail Hollow. It was his first major, and I think he could – the season he's putting together this year, he's really brought it back. He had talked a lot about in the offseason pairing up with Xander Schauffele to work on his putting, and I think it's really helped him out. He sunk a putt at Harbour Town to finish it off in that tournament, and I think we could see big things from him this weekend. Between the two best buds, him and Jordan Spieth, I would give him a better shot than Spieth to get it done here, just because Spieth's been so up and down and consistent since he broke out onto the scene. You know, he's chasing the career Grand Slam, but his last championship was 2017 at the Open. He had won 2 in 2015 at the Masters and the U.S. Open. So he really started to peak really early on in his career. And so I'm just wondering if we've seen the best golf from Spieth. It's fun watching him because you never know where his ball is going to go. And that's why he always has a big crowd around him at every tournament that he shows up to.
Great
But
at saving. He's great at saving hard.
he
I
is.
mean, we got
He
him out.
is. He'll hit a terrible shot and then follow up with one of the best shots you've ever seen. But I don't know how far that's going to take you in a major championship when you have all these other great golfers. And you mentioned Scotty. He's been hitting his stride, but he still hasn't won like a big tournament this season. He got his first win at the CJ Cup just to get one under his belt for the year. He ran away with it, going 31 under par to take an 8-shot win for his first of the year. But it'll be interesting. And one that kind of gets pushed under the rug here and overlooked is Xander Schauffele, defending his title from last season. We had the injury, so he's been kind of just working his way back into a rhythm on the tour. So it should be interesting to see where he finishes up. This could be the championship that he needs to get back on track, and knowing that he's won this before could bring a lot of confidence going into this weekend. So, yeah, obviously you mentioned Rory. He's had an incredible year. What does it mean after the Masters win? What will that do for him? Because for me, what was most telling was right after he sunk the putt to win the Masters was that he wasn't fist pumping. Like, he was ready to keep going. It was falling to the knees in relief. And I don't know if the same fire is going to be there, not just this tournament, but for the rest of his career. You almost feel like he's done what he came onto the tour to achieve, and he's got the Grand Slam. What more has he got? What more has he got in the tank? So it should be interesting to watch. I know a couple of guys that have made it into the field, Ricky Fowler and Dustin Johnson. They did not make it in as automatic qualifiers. They've really struggled in the latter years of their career. Dustin Johnson basically mailing it in on the Live Tour, getting the paycheck and just having a good time on the golf course.
I mean, that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah. And then Ricky Fowler, one of my favorite guys on tour, just has never lived up to some of the hype that followed him entering into his first season on tour. So it would be really cool to see him have some success. I know we had a couple years back when he went off at the U.S. Open, but couldn't come away with the victory. So I just want to see him play well, make the cut, have a good tournament this weekend. So, well, let's get into some of our picks here. I know we wanted to look at the betting odds here, so let's start with our winner. Give me your best shot to win this one.
So I mentioned the two favorites. I don't like favorites, so that's not to say won't mention their names later. But winner wise, I am going with Mr. Bryson DeChambeau at plus 700. I mean, recent history, he's been a factor. So the last 6 majors that take place in the U.S., so we're excluding the Open, in 5 of those, he's been much in play on Sunday. That includes last year's PGA Championship, where he took Xander Schauffele right down to the wire, where Xander had to make that birdie putt to avoid a playoff on hole 18. I think this, like you said, Bryson just came off winning at South Korea for Live a couple of weeks ago. I think he played well at the Masters until Sunday. But he's still, I mean, when you're in the final pairing, that shows you that you're still really, you should like your game where it's at. He just had horrible approach shots that Sunday. But I'm going to go with DeChambeau at plus 700. He's similar to Scotty, where he has 2 majors, but they're both from the same one in the U.S. Open.
It's crazy to think that as successful as Scotty has been, that he's only ever won the Masters. After that incredible year he had last year, and you still have to know that, like, he's only 28. Scotty's only 28. He looks like he's almost 40, but he's got a long career ahead of him. So he's going to win more majors, but will he get the career Grand Slam? I don't know. That's a really tough thing to do. I mean, look how long it took Rory to do, and Rory's one of the best in the game. So yeah, Scotty's had a great career, but he's only ever won the Masters. My winner is going to be Justin Thomas, and I alluded to it just a minute ago. He's playing his best golf that I've seen him play in a long time. It's been a tough road back, but this year's been great. He's been in the running most of these tournaments that I've seen him in, and he had a good Masters. He kept it together. I loved his second round at the Players, when he completely rewrote the script on his tournament after an awful round one. And like I said, I just think the lessons he took from Xander in the offseason were huge. His putting has improved incredibly, and he's always been a good approach shot hitter. He's just a great ball striker, and he gets it close to the pin on a lot of his approach shots. So I like his chances to win. I think this could be a breakout year for him to get him back on track on tour. So that's my winner. So top 5. Who do you got?
So the PGA is much different than the Masters because there's so many more guys in the field.
Right.
And the course what you're going to get at Augusta. Augusta's, I feel like, one of the easier tournaments to bet just because you know what you're going to get. The PGA is tougher. So I'm just going with the safe bet because there's so many guys you could easily just see any of the top 5. I'm just going to go with Rory. Minus 110, I feel like is pretty good value. And I alluded to the history at Quail Hollow earlier. 4 wins, a runner-up, and he has the course record. I would say, I'm not going to predict that he's not going to be my winner, but I do like his chances of landing in the top 5.
Awesome. And I'm going to go with your winner for my top 5. I think you alluded to it perfectly that he's been right there at the top of the leaderboard come Sunday, and I think a top 5 finish is definitely in the cards for Bryson. At plus 175, getting good value on it, I think, for a guy who repeatedly gets into these playoffs and these leads down the stretch, and he's always right there. So I think a top 5 finish is a good pick, especially at plus money. So give me your top 10 finisher.
Okay. Here, we talked about him earlier, but you can get him for plus money. I'm going with last year's winner, Xander Schauffele, at plus 175. So he won 2 majors last year, and you can say he's got off to a slow start this year, but he has not missed a cut in any event he's been in since 2022. He has had 12 straight top 20s in majors. 12. So that's a few years ago. You got to go back a few years ago to find this time he wasn't in the top 10, top 20, and 5 straight top 10s in majors. That included this past year's Masters. I think he finished tied for 8th in the Masters this year. So he's still, and he won it last year. So he plays well in the majors. Now that he's won 2, there's less pressure on him to get the monkey off his back. I got to win one of these majors so I can be so I get more respect. So I almost consider this a lock. I'm surprised you can get this for plus money, just based off his recent history and the fact he's still playing decently. It's just not resulted in any wins, but yeah, I like Xander top 10 at plus 175.
Awesome. For my top 10, I'm going Victor Hovland at plus 360, getting very good value on a guy that's kind of been up and down lately. But I think the PGA Championship is a great tournament, great major tournament for anyone who is having a bit of an up and down year. This isn't the Masters. This isn't the U.S. Open. I know Quail Hollow's 3-hole stretch at the end is tough, but I think a heavy ball striker that Victor Hovland is. He's changed up his swing. We saw it last weekend at the Truist Championship, and it looked really good. So I think Victor Hovland at that plus 360 is great value, and that's my top 10.
He was top 5, I believe, last year too. He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
paired with DeChambeau at the end, and so he played pretty good last year's PGA Championship.
All right, give
Okay,
me your top 20.
so I got 2 here, and these are both value picks. And I'm gonna mention a third guy. I don't know what his odds are. I just thought of him recently. I'm not gonna give him as a bet, but I'm just gonna name him. But the 2 I wrote down: Patrick Reed at plus 200. So he finished third at the Masters. Very quiet third, because obviously Rory was getting all the attention and all that. But very outright third at the Masters. And it, and the PGA in 2017 at Quail Hollow, he finished tied for second. I think I think he I think the hate he gets fuels him, and I also think he's driven now that he's on live. He doesn't get as much attention, but I, I mean the way he performed at the Masters, I think he's going to be motivated enough to perform well here at PGA to get a spot in the Ryder Cup, and he would deserve it I'd say if he finishes top 20. So at plus 200, I think that's great value for Patrick Reed. The other one is I debated on this, but he does have good history here. He's won twice at Quail Hollow in his career. Max Homa, plus 410. The reason I did, if it was lower, I wouldn't have done it. But yeah, plus 410, that's great value because, like I said, he's won twice at Quail Hollow, and he has not been playing well. But at the Masters, which is one of the arguably the major where you have to be the most clutch and you have to rise to the occasion. He finished 12th. So if you don't take if you don't, whoever's listening doesn't take this, I don't blame you. But I think plus 410 is extremely good value for that, considering his history and his recent success in a major. But the other guy I just thought of, I mean, we didn't talk about it, but this is a kind of a storyline. But I mean, Koepka has not been playing great. He's 7 straight finishes in a major outside the top 15. But the one major he's just absolutely dominated has been the PGA Championship. He's won this event 3 times in the last 7 years. Last year, I think he finished 26th. It wasn't great, but he still finished in the top 30. So I'm not saying you should bet him. I don't even know what the odds are, but I just kind of thought of that recently. I'm like, if he's the one raising the jug at the end, don't be surprised just because of certain guys just play well at certain events, and Koepka's shown that he always plays well at the PGA Championship.
Awesome. So I've got a couple here for top 20. My first one is Minwoo Lee at plus 220. He's been a bit of a rock star in the golf world with his social media presence on there. At plus 220 is great value for a guy who is a clutch putter. I love watching him play, and he's been really good on tour this year. At plus 290, I got JJ Spawn. So Spawn, obviously, we talked about him before. Was in that playoff with Rory at the Players. If you're getting into a playoff at TPC Sawgrass with that island green, you won't have anything that tough, a hole that looks that challenging, that demanding on this course at Quail Hollow. So I like the value of plus 290 for a top 20 finish for JJ Spawn. I think that's pretty good. My last one's a fun one here with Eric Van Rooyen. I think that's how you spell it or say it. So if you didn't know, at the CJ Cup, where Scotty Scheffler went minus 31 and won with an 8-shot lead, who was behind him? That was Eric. So at plus 550, a guy who's playing really good golf, obviously, he would have won that tournament if Scotty didn't enter. So he would have had a win under his belt coming into this thing. So I think a plus 550 to get into the top 20, I think is great value on a guy playing really good golf.
He made the cut last year, so he's definitely was a factor on the weekend last year. So I actually do like that pick.
And I don't have a missed cut. I don't know if you do, so
Well,
we can leave that.
I can't ever find. I don't know. I didn't research this one too much. I can't ever find the exact numbers here, but I just threw one out there. Poor Phil Mickelson.
Oh no.
So he won this event. Yeah, because that was one of the best golf tournaments ever, the 2021, because that was right around when COVID restrictions were lowering, and like here comes 51-year-old Phil Mickelson. Like I just remember the huge crowd just following him, and I thought, wow, sports are back. This is amazing. And then in 2023, he finished tied for second at the Masters, or maybe it was outright second at the Masters. Unfortunately, since then, there's been 8 majors, I believe, played since that 2023 Masters. He's missed the cut on 5 of those, and in the 3 he did make the cut. His best finish was a tie for 43rd. If I hope this isn't true, because I like watching Phil Mickelson, the older guys golf, but if I had to pick a missed cut, it would be the 2021 champion Phil Mickelson.
Well, you always love seeing the guys you grew up with, grew up watching golf, seeing those guys like Tiger, Phil, the old guys do well in these tournaments. But yeah, there's a very good probability that he misses this cut, because he did at the Masters, I believe, and it was a tough.
He did, yeah. He missed the cut last year at the PGA Championship. I think he made the cut. It was either the U.S. Open or the British Open last year. He made the cut on one of those, but yeah, he missed the Masters cut this past year.
Well, those are our picks for the PGA Championship. I'm going to be watching all weekend from Thursday to Sunday. Obviously, we got a bunch of NBA playoff basketball to watch. We've got the NFL schedule release on Wednesday, so we'll be definitely diving into that next week. But catch us next week on the K&L Sports Huddle. We're on Instagram. I know a lot of you are seeing us on there in short form. We've got our clips coming out on there, as well as the YouTube shorts. So if you miss them on Instagram, they are on YouTube. Trying to, put out some other content as well. Trying to put out like videos of these conversations into like 10, 15-minute videos, so you guys don't have to sit here for an hour. But that'll do it for us at the K&L Sports Huddle. Back next week for y'all.